Christian Audio presents One Nation Without Law, The Rise of Lawlessness, the End Times, and the Power of Hope by Phil Hotsenpiller. Narrated by Tom Parks. I dedicate this book to Tammy, my wife, my friend, mother of our children, and colleague in ministry. Your devotion to God and His kingdom is a daily inspiration to me. I love you and look forward to all that God has planned for us in the future. Forward. Phil Hotsenpiller has accomplished something rare in his new book, One Nation Without Law. He shares a theological and hope-filled perspective on how to position our faith while trying to understand lawlessness and evil in the world around us. Theologically, we have lived in the dark ages regarding these subjects, but through the power of Phil's own personal experiences, as well as his historical interpretation of both modern and ancient history, you will find yourself on an empowered journey. I remember when I was wrapped up in one of the worst seasons of being affected by lawlessness I have ever experienced. Our house was broken into. Some people working for us had been lying to us and slandering us. I had to deal with an identity theft situation, and some of our teams in foreign nations were robbed. It was a brutal, perfect storm of corruption around us, and I began to ask all the hard questions. Why are people so evil? When will God vindicate us? Why did this happen to me when I am trying to follow God? During that time, I had to come to a place of conviction based on my biblical beliefs in the nature of God. I wish I had also had this book, because when you don't have understanding, your choices to live in hope and strength of conviction are not as clear. I came to a great place, but it probably took me way longer than it needed to. I believe many good Christians live in spiritual confusion about who God is in the midst of lawlessness. What is God's role when we are experiencing suffering at the hands of corruption or even evil? How do we evaluate our choices, and even how do we keep an open heart to hope in these times? How do we pray or look to God, and how do we position our faith? Why are there lawless people on the earth? Thank God for Phil, who expertly answers these questions and raises the bar in creating an easily accessible clarity over God's very nature in the midst of humanity's weakness and sin. Phil's role as part historian, part theologian, and all pastor will help ground you in a winning world and Bible-based view. You will be blessed, and you will grow from your time with this book. It is time for this biblical perspective to empower us so that we don't give the wrong message about who God is, instead focusing on how beautiful a life in God can be in the midst of a world filled with lawlessness. Sean Bowles, best-selling author, Translating God and Keys to Heaven's Economy. TV host and Los Angeles-based pastor, www.bowlesministries.com. Introduction. A producer for the History Channel asked me to participate in a program on the end of the world, featuring specialists whose expertise ranged from Bible prophecy to quantum physics. The producer and his film crew were genuinely interested in exploring the mystery of the future. After I had fielded questions for more than 3 hours, he approached me off camera and asked, "Phil, when you think about the future, what scares you?" Without hesitation, I responded, "Lawlessness." I am not sure what he expected my answer to be, but the shock on his face was evident. I went on to explain that my greatest fear about the future is when lawlessness becomes, and it is now becoming, a normal part of mainstream culture. It is difficult to watch the news these days without some degree of frustration, fear, and trepidation. The daily reports of lawless actions in the societies we live in appear not only more widespread, but also more intense than ever. Is nowhere safe? We have experienced terror from without and within, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our theaters, at major sporting events, and in our skies. Even churches are not immune to the pervasive
Sample complete. Ready to continue?